Good morning, students. This is your history lesson. In this lesson, we are going to take a review of chapter 2, Ancient Egypt of the Pharaohs. So, we start our lesson. Students, we will discuss about the civilization and lifestyle of that era. Between 6000 BC and 5000 BC, hunters and food gatherers moved into the Green Nile River Valley from less fertile areas of Africa and Southwest Asia. They settled down, farmed the land, and created several dozen villages along the river banks. These people became the earliest Egyptians. Although Egypt was warm and sunny, the land received little rainfall. For water, the Egyptians had to rely on the Nile River. They drank from it, bathed in it, and used it for farming, cooking, and cleaning. The river provided fish and supported plants and animals. To the Egyptians, then, the Nile was a precious gift. They praised it in a song. Hail, O Nile, who comes from the earth, who comes to give life to the people of Egypt. The Nile begins as two separate rivers. One river, the Blue Nile, has its source in the mountains of eastern Africa. The other, the White Nile, starts in marshes in Central Africa. Like the Mesopotamians, the Egyptians also had to cope with river floods. However, the Nile floods were very much more dependable and gentle than those of the Tigris and the Euphrates. As a result, the Egyptians were able to farm and live securely. They did not worry that suddenly heavy overflows would destroy their homes and crops, or that too little flooding would leave their fields parched. Every spring, heavy rains from Central Africa and melting snows from the highlands of East Africa added to the waters of the Nile as it flowed north. The Egyptians took advantage of the Nile's floods to become successful farmers. They planted wheat, barley, and flax seeds in the wet, rich soil. Over time, they grew more than enough food to feed themselves and the animals they raised. One reason for their success was the wise use of irrigation. Egyptian farmers first dug basins or ball shaped holes in the earth to trap the flood waters. The farmers then dug canals to carry water from the basins to fields beyond the river's reach. The Egyptians also built dikes or earthen banks to strengthen the basin walls. In time, Egyptian farmers developed other technology to help them in their work. For example, they used a shadow, a bucket attached to a long pole to lift water from the Nile in the basins. Many Egyptian farmers still use this device today. Egyptians also developed geometry to survey or measure land. When floods washed away boundary markers dividing one field from the next, the Egyptians surveyed the fields again to see where one began and the other ended. Egyptians used papyrus, a reed plant that grew along the Nile, to make baskets, sandals, and river rafts. Later, they used papyrus for paper making. They did this by cutting strips from the stalks of the plant. Then they soaked them in water, pounded them flat, dried them, and then joined them together to make paper. The Egyptians used their papyrus rolls as writing paper. Like the people of Mesopotamia, the Egyptians developed their own system of writing. Originally, it was made up of thousands of picture symbols, some symbols stood for objects and ideas. To communicate the idea of a boat, for example, a scribe would draw a boat. Later, Egyptians created symbols that stood for sounds, just as the letters of our alphabet too. Combining both picture symbols and sound symbols created a complex writing system that was later called hieroglyphics. In Egypt, few people could read and write. Some Egyptian men, however, went to special schools located at Egyptian temples to study reading and writing and learn to become scribes. Scribes kept records and worked for the rulers, priests, and traders. Scribes also painstakingly carved hieroglyphics onto stone walls and monuments. For everyday purposes, scribes invented a simple script and wrote or printed on papyrus. In Egypt, as in Mesopotamia, skillful farming led to surpluses, extra amounts of food. This freed some people to work as artisans instead of farmers. They wove cloth, made pottery, carved statues, or shaped copper into weapons and tools. As more goods became available, Egyptians traded with each other. Before long, Egyptian traders were carrying goods beyond Egypt's borders to Mesopotamia. There they may have picked up ideas about writing and government. The advances in farming, craft, and trade created a need for government in Egypt. Irrigation systems had to be built and maintained, and surplus grain had to be stored and passed out in times of need. In addition, disputes over land ownership had to be settled. Gradually, government emerged to plan and to direct such activities. The earliest rulers were village chiefs. Over time, a few strong chiefs united groups of villages into small kingdoms. Religion was deeply woven into Egyptian culture. Like the people of Mesopotamia, the ancient Egyptians worshipped many deities or gods and goddesses. The Egyptians believed that these deities controlled the forces of nature and human activities. The main Egyptian god was the sun god Re. This was probably because of Egypt's hot, sunny climate and the importance of the sun for good harvests. Unlike the Mesopotamians who imagined a gloomy life after death, the Egyptians took a hopeful view. They believed that life in the next world would be even better than life on earth. Following a long journey, the dead would reach a place of peace and plenty. One of the most important manuscripts written in ancient Egypt was the Book of the Dead. This was a collection of spells and prayers that Egyptians studied to obtain life after death. They believed that the god Osiris would meet newcomers at the entrance to the next world if they had led good lives and knew the magic spells. Osiris would grant them life after death. For centuries, Egyptians believed that only the pharaohs and an elite few could enjoy the afterlife. They also believed that the pharaoh's spirit needed a body to make the journey to the afterlife. If the pharaoh's body decayed after death, his spirit would be forced to wander forever. It was vital that a pharaoh's spiritual reach the next world. There, the pharaoh would continue to care for Egypt. To protect the pharaoh's body, the Egyptians developed a process called embalming. First, priests removed the body's organs. A special salt natron was then applied to the body and it was stored for a number of days to dry. After this time, the body was filled with spices and perfumes, then stitched closed. Next, it was cleared with oil and tightly wrapped with long strips of linen. The wrapped body was known as a mummy. It was put in several wooden coffins, one fitting inside the other. The pharaohs was then ready for burial in a tomb. About 2540 BC, the Egyptians built the largest and grandest of the pyramids known as the Great Pyramid. It is located about 10 miles from the modern city of Cairo. This pyramid built for King Khufu. King Khufu is one of the three still standing in Giza on the west bank of the Nile. It rises nearly 500 feet above the desert, covers an area about the size of 9 football fields, and contains more than 2 million stone blocks. Each block weighs an average of 2.5 tons. The Great Pyramid was the tallest structure in the world for more than 4,000 years. It is equal to the size of a 40-story building and is the largest of about 80 pyramids found in Egypt. The Great Pyramid is truly a marvel because of Egyptians built it without using beasts of burden, special tools, or even the wheel. What led to the fall of ancient Egypt? A powerful and technologically advanced civilization. While pinpointing the specific factors that led to the demise of the ancient Egyptian civilization is difficult, several early signs of weakening did emerge, leading to the eventual fall of ancient Egypt. The first sign of weakening was a loss of military power and lackluster military development due to available natural resources, while other surrounding and growing empires were able to forge iron from resources available locally. Egypt lacked access to ore and other necessary metals. With stronger weapons, Egypt became vulnerable to more powerful competing armies. Questions. List the reasons why civilizations began in river plains and valleys. Answer. Civilizations began in river plains and valleys for some reasons as 1. Rivers were attractive locations for the first civilizations because they provided a steady supply of drinking water. 2. The river water made the land fertile for growing crops and allowed for easy transportation. 3. Moreover, the people in these civilizations could hunt the animals that came to drink water. Question 2. How was the river Nile useful for the people of Egypt? Answer. The Nile River played an important role in shaping the lives and society of ancient Egypt. The most important thing that Nile provided to the ancient Egyptians was fertile land. They also sold a lot of their wheat throughout the Middle East from River Nile. The Nile River also provided a lot of building material for the ancient Egyptians. Question 3. Explain what is meant by hieroglyph. Answer. Hieroglyph, a character used in a system of pictorial writing, particularly that form used on ancient Egyptian monuments. Hieroglyphic symbols may represent the objects that they depict but usually stand for particular sound or groups of sounds. Question 4. What is papyrus and what is it made from? Answer. Papyrus is a thin paper-like material made from the insides or pith or the papyrus plant. Question 5. Why do you think was writing important for ancient civilizations? The ancient Egyptians believed that it was important to record and communicate information about religion and government. Thus, they invented written scripts that could be used to record this information. The most famous of all ancient Egyptian scripts is hieroglyphic. Question 6. Why and how did the Egyptians mummify their dead? Answer. The Egyptians believed in a life after death. The Egyptians used the art of mummification to bury their dead. The bodies were carefully wrapped up in the cloth bandages to preserve them. Question 7. What was the contribution of ancient Egyptians to numbers and counting? Answer. The Egyptians invented the decimal system of counting. They used 7 different symbols. In ancient Egypt, mathematics was used for measuring time, straight lines, calculating areas of land, counting money, working out taxes. The Egyptians figured out the numbers of days in the year with their calendar. Complete the sentences by selecting the right answers. 1. The kings of Egypt were known as A. Pharaohs, B. Sultans, C. Shahanshahs. Correct answer is Pharaohs. 2. The Sphinx is A. An Egyptian animal, B. An Egyptian god, C. A mythical creature. Correct answer is a mythical creature. 3. The ancient Egyptians called hieroglyphs A. Magic symbols, B. The words of God, C. Demotic language. Correct answer is the words of God. 4. The Rosetta Stone was discovered by A. Egyptian scribes, B. The British Museum, C. French soldiers. Correct answer is French soldiers. 5. The source of river Nile is the Suez Canal, B. Lake Victoria, C. Lake Tanganyika. And the correct answer is Lake Tanganyika. So students, this is your lesson for today. I hope you have understood more about this civilization. Thank you for listening. Take care. Allah Hafiz.